Welcome to No Fo Studios. Today I have Emma Bernier with us, and she's a corporate astrologer. Emma, what are we going to be discussing today?
Hi, Doug. Yes. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about Virgo season. I know that I briefly touched on this before when we spoke with Mike,
Yeah,
but we are moving into the fall season, back to school, back to work. So I wanted to share some tips and just some advice that I think people might benefit from.
absolutely.
Um,
That's great.
yeah, awesome. So I'll just get right into it, I guess, right? So Virgo is an earth sign and it comes right after Leo.
Okay.
Leo is all about playfulness, creativity, self expression, just kind of letting things be and unfold as they are without any expectations, right? Now, Virgo is an earth sign. Earth is practical. It is, in this case with Virgo, methodical. It's all about organization, routine,
Right.
efficiency, function, all those type of things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, so you can see how, right, like right after Leo season is Virgo. It's taking all of the ideas and the creative inspiration that we got and grounding it in reality and putting a system behind it in some type of routine, putting a method, with the things that we've created so that we can actually grow them into something legitimate. So with Virgo and how we can apply that in the corporate space, some things we want to think about are how can you organize and optimize your systems to work for you, right?
Right.
I think a lot of times we don't always think about the importance of keeping things organized and optimizing them to work for greater and higher efficiency. I think that's something that a lot of business owners or just entrepreneurs, whoever, really want to see happen is a streamline of their methods. So that's one thing that we want to really look at. Another thing is Virgo is known stereotypically, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with corporations, but Virgo is known stereotypically to have like OCD, to be that sign with OCD that's very anal retentive, really likes things in
Sounds right.
order. And
Sounds about right from the people. Yeah, I think that's
yeah, yeah,
good.
very orderly and very clean. And so the thing that's most interesting about this is that there isn't necessarily like a moral component to that. There can be, I think, just because of society, but it's an emphasis on getting things to be very precise, very exact. And Virgo also understands the concept of purity, which is kind of what we're getting at with this idea of like obsessive compulsive disorder with order, organization, and cleanliness. Because Virgo understands that for a system to run the most efficiently, when it is pure and devoid of contaminants, that's when that happens. So, if
Interesting.
you apply that to what I just said about organizing and optimizing, you might find that there is also an element of purification, of purifying your systems. If there are little things that are in the way, little steps that could be consolidated, this is what we're looking at with Virgo season,
Oh, I
right?
love that. This is exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So it's cool. It's really neat, I think, when you think about it, how astrology can be applied to the workplace. It really can if you take the lessons from it instead of just focusing on, oh, that archetype does or doesn't resonate. Okay, well, who cares if it resonates or not? Let's think about the lesson or the tip that we can apply from this, right?
Oh, I love this.
So those are some things that I think are really important with Virgo starting out, kind of like the main idea here. Other things that we might want to consider out or sorry, other things we might want to consider are thought patterns or tendencies toward perfectionism
Okay.
that can also lead to overthinking and anxiety.
Right. Because people think like it's never perfect, so it's never done. Like there's a certain point where you got to be
Yes.
like, I have to stop now. I can't just keep like trying to perfect something maybe that doesn't need perfection, right? It's just overthinking, constantly like tweaking. It's like just move on, just finish it, move on. It it's good enough, like for now at
Yes.
least, and you get stuck in your
Yes.
head and you're like, I want it to be like the best it could be, but sometimes it's already perfect.
Yes, exactly. No, you literally said that perfectly. I think over time we start to realize that perfection, at least lasting and forever, is somewhat of an illusion, really.
Right,
And if
right,
you're
right.
if you're always waiting for something to be perfect before you get started, you will essentially never get started, or you'll
Never.
wait for that moment where you think it's right and then,
It's so funny you said that. So I was actually yesterday interviewing a new real estate agent, and we were discussing things and always waiting for different things to happen or come into play. And I said, just remember one thing: you'll never be more perfect or more beautiful or more healthy or more in charge of your life than you are right now.
Mm,
Everyone's always waiting to say, oh, I want to do this. I've heard from people, oh, I want to get Botox before I do a headshot. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to do this. I want to do that. But I'm like, listen, you'll never be more perfect than you are right now. Just seize the moment and make it happen, because you're just going to keep planning for something that if you don't lose the 10 pounds, then what? Another week's going to go by. You don't do the headshot, or 2 weeks. And then
right.
guess what? You don't have a headshot. And that's a month now that no one knows who you are on the internet or whatever it is. So You just got to
Yes.
go. You got to keep going. You got to take the moment, seize it, and say, you know what? Ready, set, go. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. Um, it doesn't have to be perfect. I I just got to get it going. I got to get started. Right? I mean, you talk about this all
Yeah.
the time as people, procrastination and disorganization and waiting for things to say, well, I need to do this before I could do that. No, just start. Right? Always
Yeah.
just start. Right, Emma?
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because even personally in my life, I feel like I've had moments where I've gotten stuck in this analysis paralysis.
Of course.
And it's
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about, where I don't need to be doing any more thinking. I,
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
thought, I have a plan. I just need to take action and learn as I go. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Nothing wrong with
I
falling.
totally relate to that. What's
Yeah,
that?
listen, you
Yeah.
have to fall. Like, it's
Yeah.
like a little kid, no parent wants to see their kid crawl and start walking and fall, but you
Right.
have to fall to learn how to walk, right?
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
sometimes go backwards to go forward, and yeah, it's scary, but like you said, you could procrastinate, you could overthink things. And we talk about this all the time, Emma, you and I. Your mind is a dangerous place when you're alone, right? When you're
Yeah.
busy and you're doing things, you don't have time to overthink it. You just make stuff happen. But when you're sitting there pondering on things, you'll figure out you're thinking about things that probably will never come into fruition. You're worried about things that probably will never ever happen. And then you're just like, well, I'm not going to do it because I already role played everything that can go wrong and it doesn't make sense. But if you
Right.
just did it and you go through it, you're like, oh, no big deal. I can do this. So like, you're so right. And we all kind of do this. We go off track and we worry about things and we lose focus. And that's the biggest thing, which I love about you doing corporate astrology,
Yeah.
is that you help business owners get refocused and help someone like myself, a business entrepreneur, say, Doug, look, all these outside forces that you don't even know, you're not even aware. This is maybe what's going on in the month of August or September. These are things, the outside forces that maybe are happening, and they're the reasons why things are happening in your life the way they are. And when you start to think about that and you can reboot, which you do a great job helping reboot the mindset, it's so important to think like, yeah, there's more reasons that things are occurring the way they are. People always say, oh, bad things always happen in threes. Now they're saying it happens in fours, fives. I mean, it's endless. But good things
Yeah.
also happen in threes, fours, fives, right? It's just how you look at things, right? There's always going to be something challenging or hard, but I love what you're doing for people, especially for
Thanks.
entrepreneurs, Emma, because there's so much coaching out there of sell me this pen, sell me this, and tell me why you should have this. But that's mindset of a salesperson. That's not mindset of somebody who's trying to reboot and understand why they're ticking the way they are, why they're doing things the way they are. And what you're doing it really does help, because we go back to understanding who we are, right? And when you understand who you are, you could be better at portraying yourself to others. So I love where you're going with this. So please keep going. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say one thing too with that. I think it's really important to, at least with what I'm doing with astrology, to use it to help transform even say corporate executives into conscious leaders. Because like
Right.
you said, when you really understand yourself, when you understand how you relate to yourself, relate to others, even relating to like the products that you're selling, suddenly you move away from needing all these tips and tricks of a
Right.
salesman and
Right.
you can just
Exactly.
be yourself. You
Be
can
genuine.
believe. Yes, exactly. There's a genuine nature to it. It's believing in yourself, believing in the benefits and the value of what it is that you're selling, yada yada yada. And then it's yeah, there's it kind of cuts out this energy of the used car salesman to
You're right.
a degree, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because
Yeah.
everyone loses focus and because they're not making their own identity, right? So
Yeah.
they're being trained on an identity they believe people want to be perceived as, right? So they're
Yeah.
like, well, this Instagram is doing this, so now I'm going to do this. So it's like, okay, but look,
Right.
if you are genuine about who you are, first you got to know who you are, right? You got to believe in who you are. But
Yeah.
once you're there, whoever's going to follow you is going to follow you because they like the way you're leading yourself, right? So why have followers, whether it be in business? I'm not just talking about Instagram. I'm just talking about in life. Why have people in your life that don't believe in who you are, right? And don't care about the things you have? They're never going to agree with all the values you have if they don't believe in you and they're not following you for the right reason. So that mindset that you're helping people get, even myself, I love talking with you weekly. And just so you know, Emma's not a therapist, but she's kind of like my therapist, everyone. Like she's out there, she's
Yeah.
great. She's always on the phone with me. But it's awesome because in a way, this is therapy for the mind. This
Yeah.
is a psychological, mindset altering the way you perceive things and the way you do things. And it's really important, everyone that's watching this and listening in, is that, if you don't open your mind to other factors, you don't know what you don't know. So you can't be mad at yourself if you don't know something. But when you
Right.
start opening up your ears and listening and saying, you know what, astrology's actually pretty cool. And it's been around for a long time. And to meet someone like Emma, to have someone in my life and hopefully all the life of all the viewers and future business owners and current entrepreneurs in the corporate setting, when you open your mind up to say, wow, there's a different way to think. There's a different way to philosophize and kind of look back at how things work. I could tell you that for my own personal growth, it's been monumental. I just want to let you know that, Emma. It's really,
Yeah.
people need to know how important what you're doing is.
Yes. Well, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that, Doug. And
Yeah,
I'm,
of
I'm really
course.
glad to hear that our conversations are actually helpful to you and that they're applicable. The things that we discuss are applicable to your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, I also do want to share a few more things about Virgo season because I know that we have
Yeah,
such
yeah,
great conversations. We go on
yeah.
rants. But anyway, so another thing too with Virgo season that I wanted to point out is to that point that we've been talking about, right? Perfectionism. It's really having a critical eye and a critical mind when it comes to evaluating and analyzing our situations,
Right,
our relationships, our projects, whatever it is. But like you said, there is a point where this can hit kind of like a diminishing return, right?
right,
Where now this chase for perfection is starting to come around and bite you in the behind, right?
right, right,
So that is something that we want to think about as well coming up with Virgo season. Yes, we want to be analytical. Yes, we want to be organized, but we also want to be mindful of any tendencies that we have to really chase perfection in a way that become more of a hindrance than a help. So that is probably, I would say, like the second thing to really consider. The first, again, being organization and optimization. And then the third thing that I think is also really important is to consider Virgo's tendency and desire to be helpful and useful. Virgo rules the house of service, being of service to others. They can kind of be known as this very healing type of energy. They're opposite from Pisces, which is a very spiritual sign, known as also kind of a mystical healer in astrology. So there is a desire on both ends to really serve others. That even if you are in an industry that you wouldn't necessarily consider yourself a service based industry, it
right,
is still very wise to consider who it is you're serving, even if it's simply thinking about the types of clients that you'd be selling like a product to.
right,
When you can think beyond what something is doing for yourself and also consider how it impacts others, what is the intention behind what you're doing, what is the value that you're providing, how does this benefit somebody in the short and long term that would be receiving this service from you, receiving this product from you. It can also help you better understand your own client, right? Your clients, but also yourself, right? You
right.
think about the motivation behind what you do. It naturally can lead you into discovering your why or digging deeper into the why behind why you do things.
Well, that's
So,
really cool what you just said, because, I've been in sales for over 30 something years, too long, and I never approached a client by their sign. Like, but if you think about it, there's different decision, there's openers and closers on a lot of big deals. There's people that can get the meetings, there's people that can strategize, and there's people that just come in as a closer to close deals.
yeah,
And being self-employed, I've had to learn how to become each one. And the most important one is the opener, but then also the most important part of me is being the closer, right? And everything in between, right? So it's like you're juggling all these hats. But I've never approached sales because I never really knew about this astrology and how mindset works with it. But it's so interesting to think, like, what if you're selling a Virgo right now and you know this and you know they're a Virgo? How would you approach things a little different, right? What
love it.
what what key topics would you point in? Would you point on Emma's point about being organized? Would you go into maybe perfection? Would you what would your approach be based on understanding how they are this month? So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool to think that there's a whole nother way to strategize how we do business and how, like you mentioned, the service industry. Like, in my opinion, no matter what product or what business we're in, whether you're a doctor, a waitress, a bartender, um, anything, an EMT, you're in a service business. You're in the
yeah,
business of when if
agreed.
you're going out and you're giving a service, and you know what, people want to smile, people want to feel like you're giving them value, like you said, so important. But it's really true. Like, what if we approach things in business with astrology, knowing who our clients going through in their cycle and how to approach that differently? I think that's really cool, Emma. I've never done that. And
Yeah.
it'd be pretty cool to see like different techniques that could be applied, but for the Virgos, and this month's type of sales process. It's pretty cool because I could
Yeah.
tell you in business, in or the real estate sector right now, things are slowing down
Mm.
in the sense of the time period. Right now
Yeah.
we're in the end of August. Um, People are going back to school shopping. People are going to enjoy the next 2 weeks of summer, what's ever left, and then they're going back to school or they're coming back from their travels. So there's a little bit of a lag, right?
Yeah.
And it's the calm before the storm because then everything goes back and everyone's busy again. But it's cool to think that, hey, listen, there's a way to approach this downturn a little bit, this little bit of slowness in the market. We understand the reasons why. I mean, listen, I'm not looking to buy a house right now. I'm looking to finish off 2 weeks with my kids, go on the boat, go golfing, whatever. But knowing that in September, when they're back at school, it's full. I'm in front of the desk every day and it's back to the phones. How do I want to approach that when I'm back at the phones? How do I want to think about the Virgo season and apply this with Emma's teaching? So really cool, Emma.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much you said so many good things there that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much that we could dive into, but we'll save it for another
Let's save
episode
it
for
for
some of
next
these
week.
things.
Let's save it for hey, this is ongoing. We're not going
Yeah.
anywhere. Don't worry, you're never gonna get enough of us. We're always gonna be here for you.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I totally agree that, even during seasons that we might feel are more of like a lull or a pause or a slowdown, I think that we can use that time efficiently and productively no matter what. And
Right.
sometimes, actually, I think this is a perfect example, right? Virgo, like I said, it's an earth sign. It's not fire, it's not air, it's not known to be out there doing the most, networking, creating, pushing your stuff out there, selling, and yada, yada, yada,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's known for kind of standing more in the background and just doing the back end stuff, right? Which
A little
is
more
just
analytical,
as,
right? A little more
yes,
analytical.
yes, exactly. Very analytical. It's ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of communication. So there is a very mental and communicative type of element and energy to
Yeah.
Virgo, and it's very much introspective. This is getting a little bit deeper into it, so I won't linger too long. But Mercury it rules Virgo and Gemini, and Gemini is an air sign, but Gemini is more of that like external, extroverted
Right.
Mercury, communicating, delivering messages, this and that, jumping around to different circles. Oh, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's network here. Let's collaborate on an idea here. Virgo is the same energy of communication, but it's focused more inward. It's
Got it.
focused more inward on like, what am I observing? What am I noticing about my environment? What little details need to be considered? Let me write that down, right? Oh, this person is, how am I processing this person's behavior or whatever it is, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that even these kind of slower times can still be used productively. In this case with Virgo, it's really about introspection and organization, back end stuff. But yeah,
It's
it's
so
it's just really
crazy.
important. Yeah.
Something, something I'm thinking about as we talk. I mean, how valuable is this to one of the hardest jobs in the world? Because I could never do it, is being a school teacher, right? I mean, it
Mm.
really is. You're dealing with parents, you're dealing with administration, you're dealing with students of all backgrounds and, learning abilities and disabilities. Can you imagine teachers going back to school if they knew and understood Virgo season and how to apply that, like how this plays
Right.
into so many different sectors. Like we always saw
Yes.
corporate, but education and the staff and faculty saying, "No, this is Virgo season. Like we understand why this is happening. Or again, why that kid's acting like that this month. Like this is so much deeper. It's so much deeper than just high level. Like this applies to so many different sectors that we're all in. And I just thought about education because the kid's
Yeah.
going to be going back to school. And it made me think of that, like, wow, like they're excited to get their school books and like pick up stuff. But like all these teachers are like, if they knew about this little sector of, the period that it's Virgo season, how would they apply that to their way they approach the students and how they interact and with their staff? It's just endless, huh? It just doesn't stop.
Absolutely. I think it's a goal and a dream of mine to be able to showcase to people that this information is applicable on a very large scale. I think
Very
that's one of the
much.
most incredible things about astrology to me is this kind of paradoxical, is that the right word I'm looking for? Nature of this, where astrology, it can help you dig so far into the details of things. Like
Yeah.
even just talking about Virgo, I could go on for hours and hours and hours picking apart all these traits, right?
Right.
And how
Right.
they apply to human behavior in the workplace or anywhere. But at the same time, the patterns that you will notice in astrology are also visible on a collective scale. So, kind of like we're talking about today, Virgo season, like things are in Virgo right now. So, how does that impact the world, like the
Right.
collective on a large scale? I remember, just to give an example, right? Like back when there was some, I think it was activity going on with like Aries season.
Okay.
Aries has a shadow of like aggression, violence, war. Not everybody, of course, but
Right.
I think it was around then that we saw some cultural and world
Wow.
changes when it came to
Is
like
that right? Wow.
violence and aggression and war and things like that. Obviously, we're kind of in the middle of all that. Anyway, yeah, so it can also exist on this really large scale, this large collective scale as well. And I think it would really only benefit everybody to be able to utilize astrology as a tool, not as like a fortune telling thing, but just as a tool for deeper awareness. Because I really do think that awareness is really a cornerstone of leadership, and you can be a leader in any space. You can be a leader at school, you can be a leader in your, in your business, or even in your home.
And to yourself. Most importantly, you could be a leader to yourself, everyone. You
Yes,
know?
exactly. Exactly, which is kind of like the whole point of all this, right? Like igniting and evoking this leader within all of us. We all have one. What
Right.
it looks like and how it expresses itself, the strategy that it uses might be different for all of
Right.
us, but we all have it within us. And I think that's really my hope with astrology, is to inspire the leader within everybody else by using this tool to reflect back to them some qualities and some strengths, whether it's strengths, weaknesses, yada, yada, yada,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
No,
people just
you're
might
right.
not be aware of.
No, Emma, this so well said. And I just want to say thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on and helping us, helping me, helping everyone that follows us, and all the corporate clients that you're working with and getting new clients. I think it's so important that they realize that there's a resource like you out there. If you Google corporate astrology, nothing, you better find Emma, because you're cutting edge. You're doing something
Thank
that nobody else has really tapped into, in any form that I've been able to find, that's actually
you.
giving really good information,
Mm.
being super aware of what's current. And it's just such a valuable service that you're providing, Emma. And I thank you for always, sharing this information with us. I'm looking forward to next week, our call, or whatever we're going to discuss then. We can't tell you today, but we may know, we may not know. But for the Virgos out there, you'll find out. But Emma, thanks again. And I look forward to the next show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Doug. I'm looking forward to the next one.